Last but by no means least, I have pleasure in introducing Tammy Massie. Tammy has participated in 10 different clinical studies. She has run over 20 100-mile endurance races. She's a wilderness first responder, which means she can now respond to a mass casualty event. I'm not sure whether she knows something that we don't know. Tammy is also a running coach at a marathon distance, and so far, all of her protégés have finished their marathons successfully. And her goal in life is to be a motivational speaker, and so the journey starts here.
Thank you very much. So I am a statistician for the Food and Drug Administration, and one of the banes of my existence actually is that missing values. And I have a confession to make. My first clinical study was a marriage study. That's my husband. He fell off a mountain in 2009. He had to be medevaced off by our US Army, but we're still married. But during this marriage thing, we had about 12 different times we were supposed to see them. And then after about 20 years, we were supposed to recheck. We DNF'd. We did not finish. After 3 visits, we got into a fight, and we called them up, and we were like, our marriage is over. Clearly, we're a missing value, but our marriage is not over. Or at least as of this morning when I woke up next to him. My next one was a smallpox vaccine, actually back in the early 2000s. And this one was actually a very, very challenging study. I was in the placebo, but oddly enough, in the placebo, you can still get sick, you can still be miserable. And I ended up with a really bad case of the flu. I thought I was dying. And then they actually challenged you with Dryvax vaccine, the actual vaccine that people had gotten in the 70s. And I was just completely miserable. I did not DNF that study. I actually completed it. And then I learned I was in the placebo group, and that's why we always want the placebo group, because bad things happen to regular people. You want to see what that noise is. You do need to detect the difference. In case you're kind of saying, well, I can't participate in those. I don't want to get exposed to smallpox. I don't want to get married. That's just a nightmare. I started in the cancer prevention study many years ago, and unfortunately, I was in the normal group, no cancer or anything like that. I got diagnosed and I got treated for melanoma cancer. That's kind of a bummer. But in fact, these longitudinal studies for a lot of different diseases want healthy volunteers. I encourage every single one of you to volunteer. You'll see what your patients have to deal with if you're in this field, how many questionnaires you have to deal with, what things, like the questions that are asked that sometimes you're like, what in the world are they asking and what are they trying to get out of it? I really do encourage you. And I mean, data points are sometimes hard to come by, and I really encourage you to think about it. I think it gives you an extra perspective. Now, this is my most fun clinical trials, is doing 100-milers. I do a lot of marathons, but I also do 100-milers. One of them was actually in Western States 100-miler. In 2 weekends from this, I'm doing Western States again. And this one, it was a very easy 100-miler clinical study. You run the race, you finish, and then they gather data. So what you do is you go up a mountain, it's really high, you have about 4,000 vertical feet, you climb, you go down, you're running. You start running at 5 a.m., and in my case, I finished the next day at 11 a.m., about 30 hours later, running the whole time. And then lo and behold, when I finish the race, I get to the finish line, and I have to get my blood drawn, I have to do a pee sample in one of those things, and you're like all jittery and stuff because you have no energy whatsoever, and you're like trying to pee in the little cup, and that's kind of a bummer. And there's my dad, but I was successful. But my CPK actually was like 2,000. One of my friends was 100,000, so I'm kind of proud of my very low CPK. I also got my blood drawn, so you can see me there, and I tried to be happy when this was all going on. A different study, actually, that I participated in was a little more challenging. So that one, you just had to finish the race, and then boom, you're tortured. Again, this time with Western States, same thing. I run the race, I finish, and then I'm tortured. Javelina 100, they actually gather the data as you're running along. So you start the race, and it's actually a loop course, about 16 miles or so. So you start early in the morning, so hope I can press the button. So there's me starting early in the morning, looking happy. Then you start running and you get into the evening, you continue looking happy. There's me in the middle of the night. There's me looking like a cactus. And At 16 miles, actually every 5 miles, you actually go to this aid station, and if you were a participant within the clinical study, you actually had to measure your ins and outs to a certain extent. They would collect some data. So what they did was they in fact had this box, and okay, so I should show you. So here is the bathroom. Oh, there's the bathroom. Can you see that tree? That's the girls' bathroom. The boys' bathroom is on the other side. And there was a box. And in the box, I apologize, I tried to simulate that I'd hold a microphone, but I clearly was ineffective. So in the box, they have these little Ziploc bags, and you're supposed to pee in the bags because there's nothing but high quality stuff for this study. I learned after the first time, you put your name on the bag before you pee in the bag. And on top of that, you have to pick your bag. You have to be like, I'm not Raj. Raj could probably use the snack size bag, sadly. I almost needed the 2-gallon jug. You can see me. This is me with my fairly substantial bag. The guy next to me, he picks this up. He's like, why do I need it to be this big? I'm like, I need it to be bigger than this one. So you actually put that in the bag and so that they can collect your information. They also were collecting your sweat samples, and then they were collecting your blood. So every time you'd go around, they draw your blood. But it was like NASCAR. It was super duper fast. They'd swipe out everything that they needed. They'd ask the questions. They'd ask you, what were you eating? How were you feeling? Were you taking any medications and things along those lines? They didn't control you, so that it was more of a study, a survey study rather than a controlled study. But in fact, they did collect an awful lot of information. And here's some information. What you may not exactly be able to see because it's a little light, that's my pee sample. I was such an outlier. I was really proud of it though. I was very well hydrated. So this is also me. At about the 3rd lap, I actually went out of potassium. Apparently I wasn't eating enough salt or whatever. I was peeing everything out or whatever. And so that just tells you that they provided all the information, and I thought it was kind of interesting. Upcoming, like I said, I'm doing another 100-miler Western States Endurance Challenge coming up, not this coming weekend, but the following weekend. I'm really looking forward to it. I think that just as an informational thing, I think you all may have doubts about yourselves in life. You can do it. Believe in yourself. Exactly what the previous speaker said. Just go from small little steps, go as far as you can, and just believe in yourself. Just practice. And I think that a lot of us say, oh, this is impossible. It can't be done. Yes, it can. You just have to train up for it and just believe in yourself. If you believe in it, you can do it. If you don't believe in it, you can't do it. So thank you very much. Here's my contact information, and I hope you enjoyed the session.